way we look at it, we saw red all over the screen.
Spanked.
You need a Band-Aid, she got annihilated. That's how we look at it. When you look at some of the issues, clearly not addressing the economy in a fashion that resonated. I know this much about minorities in this country. When it comes to black and brown folks in the United States of America, let me tell you something right now. We don't want to hear about percentages. We don't want to hear about, oh, inflation has dipped down to below 2% and all of that stuff. We're looking at the money in our pocket. How much does it cost to get gas? How much does it cost to buy groceries, to go out, eat dinner, et cetera, et cetera? How much money can we save? They asked her, would she do anything different? And she said, not that I can think of. And when that happened, you just knew that she was in a world of trouble because Trump knows how to utilize those things to his advantage. In the end, it's sad that she went out this way. You would have liked to have seen a more competitive race. But America has spoken, and they have said they don't like what the left, particularly the progressives on the fringes of the left, have proposed to this country and what the Biden administration capitulated to. And that had her name written all over it as well, and that is why she will not be the 47th president of the United States.
You know what's the worst thing? Is when a guy who, when he was in the game, engaged, driving, gained credibility. Whenever he would have the mic, everybody would be just listening to everything he has to say. And then he lost everybody because it was all about him and it was all about his own stuff. And then he goes and comes back 2-3 years later and he's on the mic speaking. And guess who listens to him? Nobody. It's one of the worst things that happens to someone where you're looking at the reaction you used to get 3 years ago and you're no longer getting. Barack Obama no longer has the magic he used to have.
Yeah.
He is officially now down to, I hate to say it, annoying Obama. I'd sit down and have a conversation with the guy, and I'm sure he's a fun guy to talk to with sports.
Of course.
I'm sure you'd have he's probably a troller, fun guy when the cameras are not on.
Yeah.
That influence that he used to have with this in 2004 and 2008 and 2012, it is gone.
Definitely a bit of the VP blame game going on. I mean, these margins, 0.5% swing towards Trump in Wisconsin, 18,000 votes, 38,000 votes in Michigan, 78,000 votes in Pennsylvania. Would Josh Shapiro have at least appeared as a moderating force? We know that she didn't do as well with Jewish voters as past Democratic candidates. But I do think, I agree with Jesse that this was about the fundamentals of the race. And I don't know if you've seen that New York Times chart with the arrows, the red arrows. They are everywhere, and they are all going in that direction. I mean, he outperformed 2020 every single place on the map. And I don't think that having a different VP on the ticket would have made a difference on that. The only thing that probably would have had any shot at changing things would have been if there had been a real primary a year ago. And maybe Kamala Harris would have been victorious in it. I don't know, but maybe you would have had Gretchen Whitmer or Wes Moore or Josh Shapiro at the top of the ticket, and that could have been different. But this was a fundamentals election, and like I said, a lot of people telling the Democratic Party, we don't like what you're selling.
We got homelessness in the streets of America. We got black folks out here. We've been struggling for a long time, but somehow, some way, you come up with $53 million for prepaid credit cards for illegal immigrants that were brought over to this city. Okay, we have a situation where you've got homelessness raking through the cities of New York, Chicago, LA. Don't get me started with LA, because I'm there a lot, and it's really, really bad out there. But somehow, some way, you don't have money to address crime, to address education, to address homelessness in this country. But somehow, some way, you got billions to throw over to Ukraine to fight a war against Russia. I'm not saying you shouldn't have done it, okay? Russia attacked them. You want to protect them as best as you can. You don't want Russia gaining additional territory. But how'd you come up with the money? Where you get the money from? Okay, and if you had the money to give to Ukraine, that means you had the money to address these problems. When the Israeli-Palestinian conflict took place, when Hamas invaded Israel and kidnapped people and killed folks last October 7th and what have you, okay, you had a deal to give Israel weapons, and you've been giving Israel money, but you're giving them even more money. Nobody's knocking that. We understand that. Well, some people might knock it, pro-Palestinian supporters and what have you may knock it, but the real issue is, how'd you come up with the money? You kept saying that you didn't have it for issues that are pertinent inside this country. But every time something happens outside our borders, somehow, some way, America's got a hand in it, and they got enough money to help subsidize.
Kamala and Biden reportedly had a major falling out, and these public things that's been said and done by members of both teams could lead to a split in the Democratic Party. The already strained relationship between the president and the vice president hit a breaking point on election night when Biden rejected an invitation to attend Kamala's watch event. This ignited mass infighting within the Democratic Party and caused members of Kamala and Biden's team to take to national TV and publicly exchange these insults. First, Democrats who support Biden blamed the loss on Kamala's own failings, specifically pointing out her inability to conduct proper interviews and lamenting against her choice of Tim Walz as a running mate who did not help her win any of the important swing states. But then in retaliation, senior members of Kamala's team appeared on CNN and launched scathing attacks against Biden. They blamed him for dropping out too late, which only gave Kamala 3 months to run, and then pointed out how Biden's general lack of support for Kamala may have cost her the race, with one senior Kamala campaign official telling CNN, quote, Biden will hold a lot of the blame for this.
I think this is the most dangerous time since right before World War II. Our adversaries, the North Koreans, Chinese, Russians, Iran, and Iran's proxies are all talking to each other. They have one thing in common: they hate us, and they want to diminish our role in the world. It may seem old-fashioned to some, but I'm still a Reagan Republican who thinks that America's role in the world is absolutely indispensable.